Hi, I'm JimmyNavio.
Hey everyone, how's it going? We are here. I've made improvements, except my arms are still getting cut off. But we're gonna try this podcast thing again. And I have my co-host with me today. James will be joining us here. I've got him muted right now because I just wanted to say hello, let you guys know. If you missed it last week, we're gonna start doing a podcast on Wednesday nights. At least for the first help, I'm in shackles. At least for the first couple hours of the stream. It might be just the podcast tonight. I've got a little bit of a headache still, like in the back right of my head right here. Just not pleasant. Plus, Lady Navio just got back from being out of town for a couple days, so it's probably going to be just the podcast tonight with James and I. But we do have a featured segment today. Mr. Meshyf, shout out to Meshyf. He put together a segment that we're going to call Sheaf's Beef. He pre-recorded a video because he couldn't be here tonight, so we're going to watch that, and it's going to be something else. I saw the screenshots. I already downloaded it. We have not watched it yet. We wanted to watch it with you live right now and get a genuine reaction. We have no idea what to expect. So we're all kind of excited for what he's got for us for Sheaf's Beef. It's actually a two-parter. Apparently we're supposed to watch the first part and then discuss it and then watch the second part. So that's what's going to happen. I'm going to bring James on now. Let me unmute him and bring him on up here. One moment. He's hiding. You're hiding.
I'm hiding.
I can't see you.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hold on, I gotta change scenes.
Oh no, the entire effect got ruined.
I know, I ruined everything.
I set it up for nothing. Now they'll never see me emerge from the ground.
Alright, here we go. Boom!
Oh, now I gotta mute the stream. There we go.
Alright, see? There's the new, you'll see it pop up with you on there. It should have a shorter delay now.
That's me.
So, yeah.
And that's not trash.
So what I did is, what I was telling you is that, so now each one of, so the border is included in your own scene. And what that allows me to do, rather than having to make a bunch of overlays, I can kind of just do it on the fly because your border moves with you. So I can just, create different layouts and stuff and just keep it all fresh. So this is the views I've got. I've got this. I've got the media view. And since it's just us two, I stuck us in the corner. Then I got Sheaf's Beef. and then I got the game one. So they look pretty much the same, but they just have different sources in them, so I can switch between them easily. So we have much to talk about. Some of the topics you brought up before we started, James was sharing some stuff with me that I thought was pretty interesting. So I wanted it. So why don't you tell everyone that's out there watching what this video was you were making and what the game was? In fact, maybe I'll pull the game up. Let's talk about it.
Okay, well, Warriors Rise to Glory it's a very small indie title that was introduced to me by this indie PR marketing firm. I get a lot of those from these small marketing firms that indie companies reach out to try to get, eyeballs on the game. And they said, here's the key, here's what it is. Give it a look, and if you want to make a video, that's fine. That they always want one of those because
right.
Any publicity is good publicity. And it's just so subpar. It's not bad to play. The mechanics are there. It's somewhat fun to play, but everything else is just awful.
Yeah. So you tasked yourself, right? Were you asked to make a video for it?
I was not.
You were not, but you said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and put together a video for this game.
Let's see.
And
what did the email exactly say?
How did that go?
Well, I did what I always do. I try to, because I know the ratio, I remember because we talked about this earlier, it's like 30-1. How much raw content do you have? And then when you finally refine it into something good and watchable, it's a really bad ratio. It is like, as you said, 30-1. You have to put in a lot of work to get something actually nice and watchable.
Right.
So I do what I always do. I try to record a lot of footage. In this case, I was like, I'm not going to play this for more than half an hour because I've already put in 6 hours, not playing anymore.
Right.
So I took half an hour of content and I said, okay, I'm going to boil this down to something watchable and entertaining to put this game in a good light. So that's what I did.
And were you successful at putting the game in a good light?
I definitely think the
The
video
hesitation.
makes the game look a lot more fun than it probably is, because I cut out like almost all of the gameplay except for like the parts that I were like, this is like the whole good part right here. So it's kind of like a movie trailer with all the action, and then the actual movie has a lot of like dialogue. Basically did that.
Right. All right.
But a point I have to give them. I would assume if I had another person to play the local multiplayer with, it would probably be more fun.
Oh, local. There you go.
Yeah, it's local hot seat.
So there we go. We just saw the infamous Thug Life screenshot there.
Yep.
Oh, with the freshest, newest memes this game.
Mm-hmm. You see, they put that in the email as like the promotional material.
They're so proud of that.
Yeah, it's like, if this is what the highlight of the game is, I kind of don't want to play the game.
Yeah, that's not getting you off to a good start if that's your launching point.
And the most they said was, want to give it a try? Here's the key. There's the key. Don't hesitate to email me with any questions. I usually don't ask any questions because I don't need to.
Right. You can figure it out.
Yeah, because there was one time, it was with that Judgement Apocalypse Survival Simulation game.
Yeah.
In the trailer, it shows buildings.
That name, by the way, is still just absolutely
It is
ridiculous.
way too long. Whenever I bring it up any other time, I just say Judgment, because that by itself is pretty good title for the game. But you build housing because some production buildings have to be indoors.
Yeah.
And by default, the entrance to all those housing buildings is facing south.
Okay.
But in the trailer, it shows they can face other directions, but they never tell you how. And it took me about 10 hours of playing because the game was
some like abstract keyboard shortcut or something?
It was.
Oh god.
I went into the settings. I don't know how I didn't see it the first time, but the second time I saw it when I was making the video, I go into the settings and there it is, rotate left, rotate right. And you would think, okay, since your left hand is on the QWERTY keys because that's what's controlling it, it's, you know, by default you might be thinking, oh, okay, rotate Q, rotate E, or maybe like Alt or something. No, you have to move your left hand all the way to the other side of the keyboard and hit comma and period.
Comma period? Oh, because it's okay, the left and right arrow keys.
Yeah, but you never use the left and right arrow keys.
No, never.
But so that entire time it was awful. If you watch that video, I actually joke about it because every building is facing south.
Yeah.
And because of that, I couldn't strategize how to build my base because your base gets attacked. And what you want to do is basically build your base in a way that you're resistant from ranged attacks on the outside, so your people just don't get like sniped.
Right.
But since I couldn't figure out how to rotate the buildings at all, I basically said, okay, I'm gonna put all the buildings over here and just build basically a bunker on the south side of the map with one entrance. That way everything that attacks me has to go through that and nothing can shoot my guys on the inside.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting mechanic, like the fact that which way things are facing matters, and that I like the idea of them like playing with that as far as like attack strategies and stuff. But if you're gonna make that an essential part of the experience, you should probably make it a little easier to do.
Yeah, because the tutorial itself explained a lot. Like, it was very slow going, like, okay, build these stuff because that's like your basic production stuff to get the game going.
Right.
Scavenge these items. Okay, next mission, you're gonna go and like like do a mission on this area on the overworld map that we just explained to you, and here's how. So they were really good at explaining everything else. It's just like they forgot that you can rotate buildings.
Oh, oops.
So it's like one of those things where the developers probably were so used to like rotating buildings themselves that they just like forgot that's a mechanic that needs to be explained.
Right. Huh. And what's that game called? Is it on Steam?
Yeah, Judgement Apocalypse Survival Simulation. It's very long. It's like 20 characters.
I saw it pop up there for a sec. Oh, it's funny if you type Judge without... Oh, it doesn't have an E. Did they type... It's spelled wrong on purpose.
Yeah.
It's the first game that pops up if you type Judg. But if you type the E, it's lost forever.
Yep. That would probably hurt it as well, along with the ultra long title.
That title is just ridiculous.
It's way too long.
The animation style looks like an old Congregate, like Flash game kind of.
Yeah, that's what I thought about it too. But
which isn't a bad thing. I played a lot of really like Gemcraft, and like there were so many good Congregate games that...
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. And it was that idea that I was like, oh, okay, I'll give it a shot. Because a lot of these, like, when they sent me the key, it was early access still. And I'm like, early access, survival, crafting, You're hitting all the things you never want to hit.
Right. I mean, is it turn-based?
It's not turn-based. It's it's real time, but you can pause it.
The enemies look like they're on it's like on a grid, right? Because they're like in defined squares.
Yes.
It looks like
because the combat mechanics in it are actually very in depth.
Okay.
Because there's a cover system. There's a cover system. The range system is pretty good, and there is like a fully defined like RPG stats thing for each character, and they all have like 10 upgrades each with like 5 paths, and sometimes they break off. Which is also really bad when one of them die, because then you invested all that time.
Yeah, no, I didn't think about that. I don't know. I like games that try new things and, new mechanics, and sometimes other aspects of the game suffer because of that. But if you're going to like focus on a few specific things or specific mechanics, you should probably at least make those good. I don't know. The whole like, oh yeah, there's this really interesting thing, but they don't explain it. And then it's like, well, that was kind of an important part of the whole game.
One thing I do like about it is the pacing goes, like difficulty-wise, because as you progress and like get more and more tech, you have to basically move out on the map, and because there's some items you can't craft, you have to scavenge it from the map.
Yeah.
And as you get into the higher tech, you can't just like turtle up and then just like expect to do well, because as you move up, you have to go and like fight tougher enemies to get the better items. And the enemies aren't just like, this one has more stats than the last one. They actually do introduce new mechanics.
Oh, okay. Do enemies and your units share mechanics? And by that I mean, like, a lot of games, they'll create, like, there will be mechanics that you can use and mechanics that are unique to enemies, whereas other games, all the mechanics exist in the game, and you or an enemy may have, like, I can cast a fireball, but I may come across an enemy that can also cast that same fireball spell. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. As much as I've played, because there were some enemies I haven't like fought yet, your characters basically, they use ranged weapons, melee weapons. They have actives. You can also give them auras as well. And then all the enemies, they don't have any actives, and they all follow like very specific things. You can pause the game, click on them, and just read up what they do.
Oh, okay.
So like so none of the enemies and your units share abilities, because something interesting they did was your units, there's basically like 3 main paths they go on.
Yeah.
You either do ranged weapons or melee weapons, and then from those, it's you're not occult or holy. So you have to choose. So you have to use neutral stuff like just a Kevlar vest and like a shotgun.
Okay.
But if you're holy, then you can wear holy armor, and you can use like holy weapons like crosses and that stuff. And if you're a cult, then you can use like demon stuff, get demon armor, and they all have different effects.
So yeah, there's definitely some depth there.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because you do have to specialize in that way, because the holy armor and the cult armor is way better than the generic stuff.
Right.
So if you don't have like a team of guys that are like skilled into that stuff, you kind of fall behind when everyone has just like the same stuff and it's not really effective.
Right. So I guess I've never played it, but based on your assessment, and it has a very positive rating.
Mm-hmm.
But the only thing that I just don't think I can fully understand is the $20 price tag on this game.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, a free copy to review it, sure. Or maybe, you know, like this will be one of those games that goes on sale for like 90% and it will be like $2 and maybe I'll buy it. But when you got a game like, and this is a good segue because I want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a game like Wizard of Legend that's like $15 and the production value as far as an indie game goes on that alone, like not even talking about mechanics, just like how well presented the game is and how well it plays, and then we could get into the depth of the mechanics, which I've barely even scratched the surface. That's a $15 game, and then you come look at this and they're asking $20 for this. I'm just like, I don't know, like, unless you already have like a loyal fan base that came over from Congregate or something, like I feel like you're gonna have a hard time, at least based on first impressions. You're gonna have a really hard time selling this game for $20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things I highlighted in my video was this game definitely is not gonna like catch the attention of a lot of people. But if you're a fan of games like RimWorld, or like, what was the other one I compared it to, or just that colony survival like type of game,
okay,
those people are probably gonna be fine paying $20 for it, because it is at least it's something different than all the other ones. Because RimWorld was probably the best at that, because they were like, it's basically Dwarf Fortress, but we dumb down everything, but it still has a lot of like in-depth mechanics. And this, we dumb down a lot of stuff, but we focus more on like the combat aspect.
Okay. Yeah, the combat does seem interesting. I'm looking at some of these screenshots.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I think's throwing me off about it? And this is gonna, I don't know if this is gonna be petty, but like 100% based on first impressions, I look at the $20 price tag and then I look at the font they used in the game, and I just immediately said nope. I don't know why. It's almost Comic Sans. Like I don't know. Like it just, I can't do it.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of devs I think forget about, is that those first impressions are very important. The price tag is the main one, but then it's all that other small stuff too. People look at your logos and they see the text, and even if they don't realize it, because you noticed like, oh, it looks kind of like Common Sans, but other people might not realize that's what they're thinking of, but they'll just associate it like
subconsciously,
something about it I don't like.
Right.
The only main mechanic I didn't like was that there is a trading aspect. You can find other colonies and trade with them.
Okay.
But if you're not on top of like your own base, they'll keep asking you for more and more stuff, and when you can't deliver, they hate you and then they start raiding you.
Really?
So I just never talked to anyone in my third playthrough, because I was like, it's not worth the effort.
Yeah. Like no matter how much you get out of it, if they're just gonna keep coming at you for more.
Yeah, because there is a trading
hostile
system. You can trade, like scrap is the currency, and you can buy stuff with scrap. But I never really buy anything with scrap, apart from like the items that you use to reset people's skills. Because maybe, oh, this person has all of his points in bows, but we use rifles now. I can reset it and just make him better with rifles.
Yeah.
But everything else I just never buy. And the other thing you could do with those colonies is you can recruit someone from their colony to join you. But if you do that, they hate you more because you just took a guy from their colony. So it's like, it's a lose-lose overall.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
What materials? So I'm assuming there's a crafting system.
Yeah, there's a very in-depth, what's it called?
Like, can you estimate how many different like types of crafting materials there are?
They're
It'll probably say here maybe.
like the base stuff like that cannot be crafted. There's at least 20. They have a very in-depth, what's it called? Like it's on the tip of my tongue. No, it's not an order of operations.
Tree.
No,
Crafting
not
a tree.
Not necessarily. When you have to craft one thing in order to craft the next thing, in order to craft the next thing.
Right. Well, it's kind of like a tree. I mean, like it's a progression.
Yeah. So because it's like, okay, base stuff is like wood because you chop down trees, stone, clay, water, and then more stuff that you have to go outside to grab. So like everything you craft is going to require like those basic stuff. So wood, you refine into wood planks, which you use for everything. You, for some reason, use wood planks in sandwiches. I'm not sure why. I don't know, maybe they're making a plate with it.
There you go. Wood planks and sandwiches.
Yeah. Because like, for instance, the basic food you get is you harvest tomatoes and then you make a salad. That's like the first food you get.
Okay.
But then it's like, okay, now you get wheat and now you can make bread. Oh, now you have wheat, you have bread and salad. Oh, now you can use those materials to make sandwiches. Now you can make spaghetti because you have like more wheat now and you rediscovered how to make spaghetti and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it logically doesn't necessarily make sense, but it's just like a progression.
Yeah,
there's a screenshot here of a little bit. I'm guessing. Oh, these look like upgrades. This doesn't look like crafting.
That's the tech tree.
Oh, okay.
Which they actually changed it in what I played, which they said was the full release. So that's like an older screenshot, but that is basically what it is. Except instead of it being horizontal, it's vertical.
Cool.
And then there's like 6 tabs. Because there's also 2 types of research. So now you need double the people to research because there's 2 types you need to accrue.
Yeah. I mean, I would totally play this game if it were like maybe even $4.99. I don't know. Like honestly, if it were on sale, like I said, if it ever is like 90% off, I'd probably try it because I love RimWorld. I do like these types of games, but not enough to spend $20 for this. So I don't know. I think they're missing the mark there a little bit.
Yeah, I think if you like stuff like RimWorld and you like those like the combat that it has, then you'll like this. Because I'm not a big fan of the combat, but I am a big fan of the colony building.
Okay.
Because in the overworld, when you are going to like gather stuff, you can do all the fights yourself. Because if you do, you can win them easier because you're not relying on the computer.
Yeah.
But when my guys are all decked out on like the tier like 3 stuff, and I'm going around to like the tier 0 stuff that I just haven't checked, it's click, auto fight, move on, auto fight, move on.
Right.
I like cleared out an entire area, and then we come back with all the stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I think that genre could definitely use more. I mean, RimWorld kind of set the bar pretty high, but I think there's definitely still room for like. There's that dwarves one. I mean, there's definitely some interesting stuff being done there.
Yeah, there are a lot of these games that exist.
Right, but they're all. Not a lot of them really take any major risks. Like they might have some slightly different mechanics or animations, or they'll focus on one mechanic or another or whatever. But like, I don't know. I think there's definitely still a lot of room to innovate. Because even if you compare a lot of these games to Dwarf Fortress, the problem is that game is so incredibly deep that people get into it. Like they'll try these other ones and they're just never satiated. Like because like Dwarf Fortress, there's so much detail in that game. It's like you can go like you can look at your logs. Like there's third-party apps that will like back up all your logs from an entire game, and you can read the history of one person and like every struggle they went through, or when they got a cut on their arm and broke their leg, and then like the entire history of everything that happens in that game is so deep. It's just like how do you? I mean, graphically, obviously, no. I mean, people have tried to skin that game or whatever, but
yeah, because I read a lot about it, and then I'm like, oh, that sounds amazing,
and then you try
to get into it, and it's like, okay, download it here, and now to understand what's happening, we have a guide. and then the guide is like 80 pages long.
Yeah, no,
and each page is like a Wikipedia like page.
It's a full-blown commitment for sure.
Yeah, it's not something you're just like, I want to get into this. It's I'm gonna commit to this, because
Yeah.
I read the stories of them where it's like, oh, the people are spilling wine on the floor in my kitchen, and the cats are walking over it, and then the cats go to clean themselves, and they lick the wine off their fur, and now they're drunk, and now like there's a bunch of drunk cats everywhere, and it's like they're fighting with the dwarves, and it's like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
I want to like experience that, but then you see everything else and you're like, never mind.
And then you load up like if the vanilla version of the game, and it's like X's and O's and asterisks and arrows and like what it
like, even starting a game, you're like, am I doing it right? Like, I hit this button, did it do anything?
Yeah.
And then
exactly.
all of a sudden the world's getting generated and you're like, oh, what's happening?
Oh, I did a thing. Anyway, I can talk about that shit all night, but let's move on to the game that I played last night for 8 hours.
Oh.
I love this fucking game, and I really hope that they continue to... Oh my gosh, I almost died just now.
Bit too excited there.
I got too excited. I almost choked on my own tongue. Wizard of Legend is an ambitious project. It was a Kickstarter, in fact. Let's look it up.
For how much?
It was kickstarted, and I think they hit their first goal. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Here we go. Contingent 99 was the original name of the team that made it. Wizard of Legend, their goal was 50,000. They hit they hit their first 1, 2, 3, 4 stretch goals. So there were some additional things that were unlocked, and they raised $72,000 for this game. It was a pretty ambitious project. There's a lot of cool ideas they wanted to incorporate as far as like, spells, and basically the best way I can describe this game is it's like Enter the Gungeon, Zelda, and Dead Cells. Like the action in it is very fast paced. It's more like, if for any of you have played or watched me play Dead Cells, it's very like dash, attack, dash, cast spell, cooldown, dash, attack. Like, it's all about moving and chaining your abilities together, and getting used to your cooldown timings and learning the enemy's attack patterns and all that stuff. So it has a very Dead Cells feel in the combat. But it is a top-down. Even some of the animations remind me quite a bit of like Enter the Gungeon a little bit. Not as cutesy. It's got a little more edge to it. It's a little more like you feel like a badass. Like when you chain your spells together just right, and it has a combo system too. So like once you hit like more than 4 or 5 hits in a row, it starts counting up your combo.
Does it make you feel like a legend?
Dude, like it feels mechanically, it feels amazing. And before I get ahead of myself, from the beginning, I mean, you can go watch my VOD from yesterday, but I'm a stickler for presentation. Like, if I boot up your game and I immediately have to fumble through shitty menus, or the volume is too loud. The volume was a little loud when I booted it up, but it wasn't like egregious. It was reasonable. I did turn it down a little bit because I'm streaming, so I tend to turn the music down a little. But some really cool small touches, like in the menus were very crisp and easy to read. They were pixel text. It's a 16-bit or 8-bit or whatever. It's pixel art game, pixel animation. So the menus were also like pixelated text and everything, but it was crisp and it was easy to read. They didn't try and do anything too fancy. It was the one complaint I would make is the sliders on the menus are soft sliders. They don't tick. So it's like really loose. So like there's no I like defined, like I want like a 1 through 10 like click on the sliders. And it just felt really muddy like when you move the sliders around, especially cuz the analog stick sensitivity is really sensitive. So I like the first couple times I set the volume and I hit down to go to the next option, and as I was hitting down, I saw the music volume slider move just like a little bit, because it caught like a little bit of a left movement as I was pressing down. They could have made that a little more snappy, a little more crispy.
Or
And
when they don't give you a number on the bar.
No, that's what I'm saying. There's no numbers. It's just it's like, it feels like an analog bar. It feels like you could just stick it anywhere, but you don't, like, I want to know if volume 5 or 4, like, let me click it. Like, I get the appeal of making it feel analog where you can kind of slide it, but there's no metric. I can't tell my friend, yeah, set the volume to 4. There's no, you know what I mean?
Set it to about 3/4 the way down.
Right, exactly.
Not more than 1/10 of the way up from the bottom.
Yeah.
That's the sweet spot.
But I will say the movement and combat feel amazing. The dash is a little bit weird because there's a specific amount of delay between dashes that you have to wait, or it, like, if you press it too soon, then it like resets again and you have to wait. So like there's a timing to the dashes, and I really like, I think they should adopt what Dead Cells did with their dashes. There's an option you can turn on in Dead Cells where your character will blink when your dash is ready again. It's a very, very, very subtle thing, but you subconsciously pick that up, and so you can train your brain. So you know, like, as soon as your character blinks, you can dash again. I think that would be cool to adopt something, because there was many times where I would just get bodied because I'd go to dash again, but I was like a millisecond, like, too early on pressing it again or whatever, and I would just like get wrecked. So it'd be nice if there was some type of visual indicator of when your dash is ready again. Biggest complaint so far, the only real complaint I have, is that it seems to be a lot more friendly to keyboard and mouse than it does to gamepad, which is weird because it came out, I think it came out on like Switch, or like it came out on 1 or 2 other platforms.
Yes, it did come out on Switch.
There are 0 gamepad configuration options.
Oh yeah, I saw where you thought you were changing the gamepad config. Well, all it actually
it just changed the pictures.
Reskin.
Yeah, it was just a reskin of the buttons. So that really bugged me. I think it's a very gamepad friendly game, especially because it has multiplayer. You're not gonna have 2 people sitting at the keyboard and mouse, so they want you to use a gamepad. If it's coming out on consoles, right? They definitely need to add, for PC users who use the gamepad, they expect to be able to customize that stuff. I mean, Enter the Gungeon set the bar pretty well as far as, like, you know, you can choose the dual analog style of play. You can choose, like, oh, if I want to use a blink, I can push down both things. Like, there was a bunch of custom settings in Enter the Gungeon, and you could completely rebind your controls. They need something like that, because you can't. There's no aiming separate from your movement on the gamepad. On the keyboard and mouse, your movement is WASD and your aiming is the mouse. So you can be moving left and aiming right? But you can't do that with the gamepad because they don't have any support for. They need to let you use the second analog stick if you want to aim with it.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean.
Like in Enter the Gungeon. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, like, with the controller, if you're moving left, you're gonna be shooting left.
Exactly.
You can't move left, shoot right.
You're shooting whichever way you're facing. There's no move left, shoot right. You can't really kite very effectively. You got to, like, flick it. Like, if I'm running away from enemies and I want to cast a spell, I'm running left to get away from enemies. I want to cast a spell to the right. I have to flick it right, press the spell button, and then keep running left. Like, you have to turn around. Like, it's James is a noob. Ninja shows up, and that's his first comment. So yeah, that's my only, like, that's my biggest gripe with the game right now. And I thought about posting it in the in, like, the Steam forums or something. Oops, I mean wood. Yeah, you know your place, sir. Your first comment should always be wood. So number 1 biggest critique of the game. Number 2 biggest critique is the one we talked about last week, and that is that it does not have online multiplayer.
Yes.
They probably have half the people playing it right now. And there's a lot of people playing it. It shot up the charts pretty quickly. There's a lot of people streaming it and playing it, but it's going to die quick because it actually has a competitive mode. It has a 1v1 or 3v3, you know, like 1v1v1. Like, it has like an arena competitive mode in it. and they advertise that mode, but it's local only. I think it's in the trailer here, actually.
Yeah, and to a lot of people that see that, they're like, "Oh, hey, let's pick up this game. They have multiplayer," and then you buy it, and it's like, it's local multiplayer only.
Dude, if it had online multiplayer, I would definitely encourage my community to buy it, so we could have like 4 people jump in a little arena and just cast spells on each other. Like, it would be. I could see how the 1v1 or like the competitive mode could be a ton of fun. But we can't play it, so unless you're all gonna fly over here and play it with me on the couch. That's the only option. And I'm sure there's reviews out there that are saying the same exact thing.
Oh, see, and it's $16, not $20.
Right, that's what I was
big
saying.
difference to a lot of people.
I mean, I already put 8 hours into it. So if you go by the dollar per hour of entertainment, I'm already almost, I'm like 2 to 1 right now. I play it 8 more hours and I'm at 1 to 1. And that, I mean, $1 for an hour of entertainment in my book is definitely worth it.
I don't know. I always found that metric weird because it makes a lot of sense when you think about it, but it's entertainment that you have to work at. It's not like a movie where it's like, sure, I'm paying, you know, 15 for the ticket and then 134 for the popcorn, but I'm just sitting there enjoying the movie. Even if it's a bad movie, you're just sitting there taking it in.
That's true, but some people would make the counter argument that being able to interact with it actually gives it more value, not less.
If the game is done right. Because like Warriors, that was not worth my time.
That's true.
Just grinding.
Well, I mean, when it becomes more work than pleasure, then yeah, obviously it's probably not worth it.
Yeah, that's usually why, because I like this genre of games. I like the roguelikes. I like the progression, but it's like why I stopped playing Dead Cells. I loved the combat. It was so fluid. The enemies were diverse and interesting, but then it was just work. Like, okay, do this run as fast as you can to get the orbs so you can die and spend the orbs. And it's like, this is a chore now, which I know people like because it's collecting and then progressing and getting stronger.
Right.
But when I have all these other games, it's like, I don't have the need to want to like finish this.
Right.
Because I remember when I was younger and I had like 1 game a year, which was Call of Duty. It was like, I'm going to unlock all the camos for everything because I have a year to do it before I get the next Call of Duty.
Yeah, when there was time between games.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, because roguelikes do require a certain amount of hours to, but I think as long, and that was actually my last bullet point on this before we move on to the next thing. As long as the progression feels steady, I will come back to it. And that's the hardest thing, I think, to accomplish. And I think that's why, like a terrible example is when Diablo 3 first came out. The hardest difficulty was literally impossible to beat unless you had perfect gear. And to grind to get that gear was just hundreds of hours because the drop rates in that game were fucking terrible. And so the only other way to beat the highest tier difficulty was to buy it in there used to be a marketplace in Diablo 3, right? And that felt terrible. Like, it felt like if you grind a game for 5 hours and you don't get a single drop or nothing, you don't get anything that progresses you in any way, it feels like an absolute waste of time. It feels like work. But if you unlock everything too fast, that's not fun either, right? So like, there has to be a balance where it's fun to keep going. And I think that's one of the things that Binding of Isaac got so right. And every game after it has been chasing that like perfect formula. Is like every
a different league.
Well, yeah, you're always unlocking something. Like every run, you'll probably unlock at least one thing. Like you'll get the little pop-up that says, "Oh, this will now appear in the basement," or or if you get stuck on a few runs where you die a couple times, there's the challenges. You could go try and do a challenge, which you get a specific unlock for that challenge. And then you start unlocking characters, and each character has different mechanics. And like the progression of the game, if you just keep playing it, you'll keep unlocking stuff and you'll keep finding out new things about it. And I think Wizard of Legend, in my opinion, has come the closest to that feeling since Binding of Isaac. Enter the Gungeon, I felt like it was close, but Enter the Gungeon is a little too hard, in my opinion, for like casual roguelike players. It's hard. It's a really hard game to beat. There's a lot of people who give up on Enter the Gungeon. I've only killed the dragon a handful of times. Like, I just don't have the time, you know? Eventually you learn all of the patterns of the enemies and you unlock more stuff, but there's people who play that game for thousands of hours and haven't unlocked everything.
Yeah, that's also an issue I have with roguelikes. When a run takes more than half an hour, it would, after your first couple hours playing it, it kind of becomes a chore. Because then you're like, okay, I'm going to have to commit like this amount of time to play through it, because if I exit, that's it.
Well, and Enter the Gungeon solved that problem by letting you save on a floor. Like when you get to the elevator, you can actually save the game and quit, and it'll save your progress. So they were smart in that aspect. I give them mad props for that. One game that I have a major issue with this in, even though you can leave and come back to where your progress was, there's no reason a game, I'm talking about Swords of Ditto, there's no reason a single run should take like 6 hours. Like, one run in that game is like a game in and of itself. And I think that's kind of what they were going for, because if you look in the advertising for the game, it's like each hero has a completely new and full adventure. Like the way they worded it, they were like, hey, each time you play it, it's like playing a whole new Zelda game all over again, which I could get behind, except it's really repetitive. There's not enough variation in weapons and unlocks and whatnot. Like I had a run where I found all the stupid orbs for the fountain except for one, and it was a long ass run, and I didn't realize that when I start again, I start with 0 of those orbs. I didn't know, because that's the whole point of roguelikes. You don't know, like a lot of times you just don't know anything. So I was like, oh cool, I got 7 out of 8 of the orbs. So on the next run, because some stuff did carry over, which was weird, but some stuff didn't. So I was thinking, oh cool, I got 7 and 8 of these orbs that I need for this next big unlock or part of the game or whatever. Hopefully I'll find the next one on the next run. I found that fountain again on my next run, and there were 0 orbs. So you have to find them all in one run and worry about like beating all of the temples, and like I don't know, it's just it feels like, you said, it feels like work. Because of how long the runs are.
Yeah, that's usually when I stop playing the roguelike.
Right.
Just in general. Because I did pick up Forced, the roguelike by Better Dwarf, and it's fun, but then...
Then it's not.
It comes in 3, like, there's 3, like, main campaigns, and the first one, as I'm playing, I was like, oh, this is fun, I'm getting these unlocks, it only takes, like, half an hour to beat, and then I move to the second campaign, and they're like, it's 3 times long, and I'm like, huh?
Yeah,
I didn't.
It scales up like crazy.
I didn't realize I was signing up for such a big commitment here, and then I just stopped playing it.
Ninja Breadmon said Dark Souls is the only chore game I need. I mean, it's a different type of chore though.
Yeah, that's a fun chore, cause.
Well,
sure,
I mean that's subjective, sir.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
but it's different because it's basically just learning how to beat your opponent. It hasn't. I mean, there is an inventory system and stuff, but it's not like grinding unlocks. It's a little bit different. Like,
yeah, it's just can I learn his mechanics in order to get good enough to beat him? And it's stuff like that's interesting that people like. But it's also why I haven't bought any of the Dark Souls games, because Dark Souls, I don't know if I have the time to sit through one of those games and play it.
I want to play them. I like a challenge. I really like roguelikes, so they tend to take up quite a bit of my time. I was a huge Diablo 2 and Diablo 3 player, but then like when I started getting into roguelikes, they scratched that itch for me instead. I prefer the grind of a roguelike over a traditional RPG, I feel like. That's just me, though.
Well,
because I do like...
They are designed for that single-player experience.
Right.
Like, how can we design the progression to be fun? Whereas stuff like Diablo, it's like, in the back of those devs' head, it's like, okay, how can we make the grind kind of difficult to keep people grinding?
Right. Well, and then the problem with Diablo 2 and 3 for me was that eventually if you want to like get to the really crazy endgame top-tier stuff, it was all about just like multiplayer boosting and shit. Like they originally had like single player in mind, and you can play through the campaign and you can do like adventure mode by yourself. But like as soon as you go on Reddit or any forums or whatever, it's just like, oh yeah, just have someone boost you to 70 and then get this gear and then go do greater rift runs, and that's it. Like that's the game now. And it's just like but that's not fun to me. There's no discovery. Like, that's part of the reason those games are so fun to me is, like, before they were geared so, like, towards, leaderboards and multiplayer and stuff, it was all about the discovery. Like, oh, you found that item that is fun. Like, I found this sword that's 3 times better than my last sword, and now I can just kill everything in one hit. Like, it's that type of shit that I enjoy. Like, oh, I found this spell that synergizes with this other spell, and now I can use this trinket to make them stronger. It's... that whole experience that I think that's why I'm drawn to roguelikes so much. So anyway, I think that's enough about Wizard of Legend. It's a great fucking game. It has huge replayability. I played it for 8 hours. I barely scratched the surface. I beat the furthest I got. I think I beat the second boss once. Did I beat the second boss? I think I died at the second boss a bunch of times. Sorry about the coughing. I'm almost over this cold. There was a couple more things we wanted to talk about, and then it's going to be time for Meshyf's beef. I'm so ready for Meshyf's beef. Or Sheaf's beef, sorry. One thing I wanted to put out there real quick. It was in the news this week. There's a lot of big announcements coming, and they're very exciting, but this one had me pretty excited. I'm going to pause my music. It is the Rage 2 trailer.
Oh.
It's being developed, or they're working with. They've teamed up with the team that made the official Mad Max game, and so like the vehicle stuff is going to be really on point. And the gunplay in the first Rage was actually really good. The game just had some flaws, and I think some of it was just timing when the game came out. But someone pointed out, like, it looks like there's elements of Mad Max and Rage, and another one someone pointed out was Bulletstorm. Like,
that was a good game.
Yeah, well, and so like, if you watch the trailer, you can kind of see like some aspects of that. It has a very like. The gunplay wise, it has a bit of a Bulletstorm feel to it. So if they can combine those 3 games and do it right, now you've got my attention.
Bulletstorm was so great. They're like, how do we make an arcade first-person shooter?
Oh,
we put points on everything.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Then the combos were crazy. You would do like all sorts of stuff to figure out what would get you the most points. That was the best part.
It was like Tony Hawk Pro Skater meets Doom.
But you're killing people.
Yeah, it was really a cool idea, and I'm surprised there hasn't been more that came from that. But I mean, there's been other things that do have similar, but I don't know. Bulletstorm, did it really well. So there's a hint of that kind of gunplay in the trailer. So I'm just gonna play the trailer, and we're gonna enjoy it.
Peggy 18. When the asteroid hit, billions were gone in the blink of an eye.
The environments look really sexy too.
Tribes rose up. Alliances formed. territory was conquered. There was no one left alive to tell you no. And in this wild, wide open place, if you wanted something bad enough, it was yours for the taking. You see, in a world where there are no rules, insanity rules.
I love the Andrew WK choice for the music too.
Yeah, he's doing like the entire soundtrack, isn't he?
That's amazing. Big ass guns.
No, Ninja, it's Rage 2, but I think they did say Borderlands 3 is coming.
So
Peggy 18.
here's my hope. My hope is that they learn their mistakes from the first Rage, and that the vehicle shit's awesome, because why wouldn't it be if you're working with the Mad Max team? Oh, my headset just cut out there for a sec. Hold on.
Oh, that's never good.
I think I got a loose wire, maybe. Hopefully the vehicle shit's awesome, and hopefully the gunplay is awesome. If they get those things right, it'll be a hit. It looks very promising.
What kind of issues did the first Rage have?
I honestly don't remember. It came out so long ago, but I think it's only $10. Let's see here. Let's pull up. I mean, we could probably look at the first review and get an idea. See, it had mixed reviews.
No, it definitely has not aged well.
So yeah, I know. Okay, so as I see these first reviews, I do remember a lot of people complained about optimization issues.
Mm-hmm.
That was like when it came out, it just crashed a lot of people's computer. Like it just didn't, like, for a lot of people it wouldn't even load, or it was like tons of FPS issues.
Yeah, that's always weird because
main story's 18 hours.
That
It's
is
repetitive
always
and boring.
weird
Sorry.
because some systems sometimes they just don't work with games, and you're like, I don't know why. And
Yeah,
devs are like,
but
"We don't know."
I think a lot of those problems have been rectified a little bit. I mean, now that there's some really, really well-made, stable engines out there,
Mm-hmm.
you know, now that you've got Unity and Unreal Engine and stuff like that, like, if studios are smart, they won't try and fucking reinvent the wheel, and they'll just use the existing tools that are out there that are powerful, and just, you know, build the game they want to build, and not feel like they have to prove something to the world by creating an entire 3D engine.
Yeah, because there are some studios that do that. Or they're like, well, we needed to build it from the ground up because we needed it to work in this way. And then it's just really bad in everything else.
Well, and I mean, I think that's been part of the issue. Personally, I mean, from everything I've read and whatnot, it seems to be part of the issue with Valve, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, their big thing is, like, we don't do a project unless it's also going to feature some new revolutionary thing or technology or a new engine or whatever. Like, that's why they make games. It's to, like, test or promote new technologies or new whatevers. Like, the Orange Box was basically to just promote the Source engine.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like,
because at the time it's physics. They
yeah,
were great.
But now you've got people who want them to keep making games, but like, he's come out and said, well, we don't have anything, you know, revolution, like, you know,
Yeah,
something.
the current meme, Valve, we used to make games and now we make money.
Yeah. So unless there's some, I mean, maybe once VR gets good enough, they'll make Half-Life 3 in VR, but they're not motivated to make Half-Life 3 unless there's some, like, new technology behind it or something else that they can show off or sell or promote with it. Like, they won't make a game just to make a game anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there has been a lot of like talks that Source 2 is like out there, that they're doing stuff with it.
Yeah.
And like how they're like, oh, they're gonna redo CSGO in Source 2 and all that stuff. But so far they keep everything under wraps.
Well, and I just watched a video about that, actually. A guy was saying that they had already remade Dust 2 in the Source 2 engine as far back as 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just fucking sat on it, and that guy, like, went to another company.
Yep.
So, like, and you know, a lot of people, like, praise their whole, like, free-flowing business model or whatever. Like, you know, oh, you know, no one has a specific job. You kind of just do whatever project you want to work on. That's awesome. But, like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like, other than, you know, patching Valve and promoting VR, like...
Yeah, because they have the revenue from Steam itself to support that. But it's like, what are you guys doing? Because, like, yeah, along with that, there's no specific jobs. It's because it's like a democracy. If a big enough group of people there are like, hey, we want to do this, then they do it.
Right.
But if they don't want to make Half-Life 3, it just doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of shitty. The
and
last
we
bit
got
of
Artifact.
Yeah, well, last bit of news that James brought up that I thought was worth mentioning. Check this out. These dum-dums. We don't have to read the whole statement, but essentially Bosky, the people who made Lawbreakers and Radical Heights, they don't fucking exist anymore. Who saw that coming? I did. They basically tried to clone games and make money off of them. I mean, Lawbreakers had so much potential, but their release window and their management and their definitely had a lot to do with their public relations.
So much with that.
Yeah, like they were a fucking train wreck, and I don't really honestly feel bad for them. And I love how he puts here about, like, there's this whole sob story about how his dog is dying or something. And he wants
like
to
how in
spend
this
time with
one-
his dog.
And then in this leaving message, we hired some of the best talent in the industry. We produce these quality products, and you know, we're canceling now, guys. It's like it didn't work out.
And I love how they damn it, my headset's like, I might have to grab another pair of headphones. My headset's cutting out of touch. I have to solder some wires, boys. I love this part too, where they were like, Lawbreakers was a great game that unfortunately failed to gain traction. I wonder why. It is like, you release it in the same window as Overwatch and you charge like $60, or wasn't the limited edition like $120 or some shit?
Yes,
with all
it
the
was
unlocks?
very expensive. And
then
Red Marsh, yeah, they made Radical Heights after Lawbreakers.
Yeah, Lawbreakers, they made so many mistakes. And plus, like, when the heads of your company are just douche nozzles and treat people poorly and talk shit about the community, like, I don't know. That's never gonna end well. Like, he was kind of a cocky asshole.
Yeah, Red Marsh. There's a video by, I forget the guy, but he essentially runs a series that's called Insert Game Didn't Die, It Was Murdered. And he did one for Lawbreakers, and he essentially talked about how the owner and just their PR in general was awful, and that's what basically killed the game. Because I remember watching it, and he's like showing some of the PR stuff that they had out for it. Because I don't watch TV, so I never see ads. And I was looking at these ads, and there were stuff like, this is for hardcore gamers, like noobs aren't allowed, and it's like, that's an already very minute audience of an already minute audience.
Yeah,
like, that just doesn't help. Yeah, I'll link it for you.
Yeah, no, they just made every mistake in the book. And then when Lawbreakers failed, and then all of a sudden You know, you've got Player Unknown, you got Fortnite. Those blow up, right? And so their last-ditch effort, they rush to market this 80s-themed battle royale called Radical Heights. And there's whole sections of the map that aren't even textured yet. Like, they were just basically like, oh, no, we're just going to develop it as we go. But here it is. It's playable. It's free. But it was, it was garbage. I mean, I played it once. It felt like your character wasn't even connected to the floor. Like, you were just, like, kind of floating around the map, and it was super glitchy. It was basically a money grab. They were just trying their best to survive, which I understand. You know, there's jobs on the line. You know, you don't want to have to admit that you fucked up and close your doors and fire a bunch of people. So they did what they tried one last time to get some traction with a game, and you know.
Yeah, the main issue I had with Radical Heights was who are they trying to appeal to with this game? Because it wasn't realistic like PUBG, it wasn't as arcadey as Fortnite, and it wasn't doing anything really new like Darwin Project. So who exactly was this for?
Yeah, it had no market. Like, at least Darwin Project, they advertise themselves as a very like skill-based Hunger Games, bow and arrow, crafting, like 10 players, the whole director thing. Like, there's so many unique things that Darwin Project tried to do that no other battle royale was doing, which is what you have to do if you're going to try and survive in that marketplace. Like, if you just are like a reskinned battle royale, why would anyone switch when they've got 1,000 hours in Player Unknowns already? Like, yeah,
and not to mention, if you're making a battle royale, you can't make a realistic one because PUBG has that space. So you have to make a better PUBG, which honestly might not be that difficult. Make a better arcadey Fortnite, which is kind of hard since it's Epic's engine and their team, like, they know it inside and out. So you just have to do something unique and interesting with the genre.
Right. Yeah, it's sad. I don't want to cheer people losing their jobs or a company closing their doors. I think the more companies we have, the more innovation, the more competition is a good thing. But I can't cry too many tears over this asshole. Oh, my dog's dying. I need to spend more time with my dog. We did our best, but it just didn't work out, guys. See you later. Like, I don't know. I'm sorry, but I can't feel bad for you. Lawbreakers had a lot of cool Titanfall elements, though. Dude, Titanfall 2, I started playing that. That game's amazing. Anyway, that's a sidebar. I think I'm going to take a short, like, 2-minute break. We're going to come back, and it's time for Sheaf's Beef. He is recording. I don't know what it is. I haven't even watched it yet, but he has assured us that we are in for quite a treat. You there, James? Did I lose you? I think I lost James. Hold on. What happened to my call? Yeah, he looks frozen. Let me get James back. He dropped off the call. I don't know if that was on purpose or not. Let me check the Discord. I did lose James. We'll get him back. Maybe he had to poop. Anyway, what I was saying is Meshyf, he couldn't join us today for his segment for Sheaf's Beef. So I told him if he wanted to, he could just record a video. He could do a little Sheaf's Beef segment, and I could play it on the show. Apparently, he went above and beyond. My internet died. No! Get back in here, man. We got to watch some Sheaf's Beef. Well, that's probably a good time to take a break then. I think we got a James.
Hello?
Hi. Oh, you're super quiet now. Keep talking.
Talking.
Yeah, you got really quiet.
Oh, that's odd.
I think it'll adjust though.
Okay. Yeah, I did get a pop-up that said something about like an echo, so it lowered me.
Oh, I think you might be able to manually go into your options and turn yourself up.
Okay, but yeah, my internet just like died for a brief moment. That was odd.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
So-
how does it sound now?
So if you go into, if you click on the little arrow next to the mic at the bottom and you go to audio options, and when that menu pops up, click on test computer mic and speakers, and then you'll see the sliders will be there.
Please speak into your microphone. Yeah, it's really quiet for some reason.
Yeah,
Okay,
just
how about now?
yeah, just crank the bar up.
Okay, how about now?
Go a little higher.
That's max.
Oh, make sure uncheck the automatically adjust microphone thing.
Yeah, I did. I'll just move the mic closer.
Oh,
to
there.
me.
That's a little better. Yeah, if you talk into the mic, that helps.
Yeah. Okay, how about now?
What's your talk show, Jimmy? I've never seen this. It's new. This is the second one we've ever done. It's something I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to have a podcast. So I'm just gonna do it. I learn by doing. That's if I decide I want to do something, I generally just do it. Otherwise, I get stuck in what's it called? Analysis paralysis. It's a very real problem for me. If I start overthinking the process, if I start like analyzing and like, oh, what kind of format do I want? What are my graphics gonna be? I will over perfect it in my mind to the point where it never happens. So I like, if you watch the first podcast, it's literally us setting up the overlays and shit. Like, I just have to do it, otherwise it'll never get done. So that's what I did. I just decided, hey, this is the week we're starting the podcast every Wednesday, starting at 6 p.m. James is my co-host.
That's me.
That's this guy over here. He has a pretty popular YouTube channel. He's got how many subscribers now?
83,000.
83,000. That's nothing to wave. I mean,
And only 10% of my views come from my subscribers.
yeah, but still, he does little YouTube review videos and stuff, and he's been a member of my community for a long time. So I asked him if he wanted to be my co-host, and he said yes. I get stuck in penalysis paralysis. Yes, goo. That is a real problem.
It can be.
Anyway, let's switch back to our other scene. We don't need to look at that anymore. It's depressing. Hey, there, we can see chat now. That's awesome. So this is my when it's just me and James and we don't have any special guests, this will be our usual format. We've got this view, we've got the media view, and right when we come back from a short break, I've got the Meshyf view. We've got Meshyf's beef. It's going to happen.
I should bring that up.
I should just, yeah. So we're going to watch it together for the first time. We're going to sync up our videos. He sent it directly to us. So I'm going to play it on the stream while James hits play at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to watch our Meshyf's beef segment. For those who don't know, Meshyf is a member of my community. He is hilarious. Got a great sarcastic sense of humor. I know him in real life. He sold me my car, actually. He used to be a car salesman. Now he's a car insurance salesman. He tries to sell you those extended warranty plans and get you set up with all that stuff. So, not car insurance like State Farm, but I think he works in the lease office. I think he helps you get your lease approved, and then he'll also try and sell you the 100,000 mile service package and stuff like that.
That was not a fun chapter in accounting.
And he's actually really good at what he does. Warranty, that's what it is. Lady Navio swoops in. She also works at the same company as him. She's in the HR department at his company. So she, thank you. She probably heard me from upstairs and she's like, God damn it, he's butchering it. He works in warranty. Jimmy, figure it out. So, 2-minute break. We go hit the bucket and we'll come right back. Go drink your drink, smoke your smoke. And we're going to come back for our Meshyf's beef segment. So I have no idea. We haven't watched it yet. So we're gonna experience it together for the first time. I have no idea what to expect. For those who don't know, this segment is basically going to be Meshyf either ranting about something or presenting us with GIFs and memes. It's pretty much him just whatever the fuck happened or whatever made him mad this week, or I have no idea, honestly. But he said he spent way more time on it than he should have. So I'm going to load
just
up
this thumbnail alone.
Yeah. Say something again real quick.
Something again real quick.
Okay, sorry. There was a little delay on your video. I'm just making sure it was good. All right, the beef. Okay, so play first. This is the one we want. Oh, Jesus. I love it already. Let me check my levels.
Did you start it?
Welcome.
You can't
Not-
start it just yet.
I'm not. I promise.
Can't just jump right in. Gotta do a little foreplay first.
I'm trying to figure out. I want to full screen it. I might
Oh
have
yeah,
to.
but it's like
Let me move this over here. I think this will work. I'm gonna full screen it on this screen, and I'll just do a window capture. I think that might be the way to do it. Here we go. This is this is learning curves. This is the first time we've done a pre-recorded Chiefs Beef segment.
mhm.
So boom. We're going to move that behind us. We're going to get rid of my Chiefs Beef. I don't need mine anymore. Look at that. Yes. Doing it live. That's how we do things here on so let me size that down just a touch, but then I will full screen. Oh, wrong one. Thanks for press F11. I know. I was getting my my ratios. Sorry, I know I hyped it like crazy, and now you guys are just anxiously awaiting, but I got to get this right. Once I do this once, I won't have to do it again. So you're getting the first ever exclusive. All right, you ready?
all right.
You want to do it on 3? I have no idea. Let me check my levels.
Welcome.
Oh
to
yeah, what if it like blows everyone's eardrums?
I think we're good. I might actually, let me go up a little more. Don't say anything for a sec.
Welcome to Chiefs.
All right, here we go.
All right, on 3.
Hold on. All right, ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3, go.
Welcome to Chiefs.
We're down here at JTR HNBR Network's Sheep Beef Stadium Complex. I'm Meshyf, your host, and we're going to be taking the beef to the ring in a head-to-head competition to see which one is beefier. Let's get started. Take it to the ring.
What? Yes!
All right, welcome to
It
the
rotates.
stadium. We're in the ring. We're going to go head-to-head with 2 different beefs, and I want to know which one you guys think is beefier. We're going to start with one, go to the next. I want to hear from the panel and the judges and see what you guys think. Jimmy, James, the guests, and then the chat. There is a right answer, and you're going to get it at the end of the show.
Oh,
But
there's a
first,
right
let's
answer.
Get into that first beef. The first beef is non-gamers. And when I say non-gamers, I don't care about people that don't play video games and don't have an opinion about it. What I am talking about specifically is people that don't play video games, that have an opinion on it, that think they're creating a bunch of violent little monsters. When we all know that isn't true, okay? It's not fucking true. It's not true because if it was, this billion-dollar industry would create a ton of soldiers, a ton of killers, a ton of maimers. We'd be going crazy. No, all we do is sit in our rooms and play video games, and we don't bug anybody. Okay, that's why, as the popularity of video games has gone up, the crime rates have gone down. Okay, you can get into FBI statistics of that if you really want to, but we all know that's a fact because when was the last time you killed someone? Guess what? You didn't. Okay, and if you did,
Like
you can tell
yesterday.
us in the chat. I want to hear the story. I want to know what's up. All right, so non-gamers is the issue, specifically people that
Nice,
think
that picture.
they're creating violence and should be regulated more heavily or banned altogether. There's this whole movement of teachers and attorneys and moms and people that don't know anything about video games, have never played a video game, and don't realize that all these people around them that are playing video games are non-violent, okay? We're not hurting anyone. We're not bugging you. All we're doing is pumping up the economy and, hanging out, having a good time. Recently, I was at my house and I had a group of people over. And mind you, none of these people play video games. None of them have ever picked up a fucking controller. And it was right after the tragedy in Florida, and it's a huge tragedy. I do not want to downplay that at all. But that kid in Florida that shot all those people up, they're trying to blame video games for this. And we all know that's not true. The kid has family issues, he has mental health issues, his educational issues. That is the problem. But it's so easy to make a demon out of video games. Oh, Jim, did you know he plays Stardew Valley? He plays Stardew Valley. He's going to go and plant a bunch of trees. And
Stardew Valley.
Maybe pick up a
He's gonna
rake.
start a farm.
No, it's not the way it works. It's fucking stupid. It's a dumb argument by dumb people that just want a piece of the pie that video games make. Okay, Jack Thompson, this guy up here, this Jack Thompson, he made a name for himself saying that Grand Theft Auto was creating all this crime.
Didn't he get
And it was
disbarred?
bad, and he was a little bit ahead of his time. Okay, it's starting to feel like it's getting more ramped up and amped up, and then it was ridiculous. Now it's even more ridiculous, but it's there, and I think that is a huge fucking beef. I'm sick of hearing about it. Y'all are wrong. Okay, you're not right, so just shut up. Education, family, and mental health. Those are the things to focus on. Those are the things that are going to fix this problem, not banning Mario. Okay?
Ban Mario.
So that's the first beef. Second beef. Sports fans that don't get Twitch. Oh my.
Yeah.
I have friends that watch sports, play video games. They love sports. We're talking hockey, soccer, football, boxing, any of that stuff. And they love to go to the games and watch. And you'll ask them what they're doing. And, oh man, I'm just watching the game, watching baseball. And that's fine. But when you tell them, oh, what were you doing last night? Well, I was actually watching, Overwatch League, competitive esports. Or I was just watching Shroud, man. I love watching PUBG and seeing what people are doing. Is crazy what these guys can do. I could never do that. That's why I like watching Twitch. And they try and tell you that, hey, that's stupid. You're watching someone play a video game. Why don't you just play yourself? I don't know, dude. Why don't you go box yourself? Why don't you go drive a race car yourself? Why don't you go play baseball? I don't know.
You go
Maybe
be in
because
the
it's fun.
NBA.
Maybe because it's something that I couldn't do without hundreds and hundreds of hours of practice and skill. So that's why this week, sports fans, y'all are the beef. Okay? You suck. Knock it the fuck off. I don't understand why you can say that you're a sports fan and you love watching sports, but it's ridiculous that someone would watch someone else play a video game. All you're doing is watching someone move a ball up and down in the field and cheering and getting crazy. And then when I watch someone click a mouse, oop, clicked too hard there. That makes me ridiculous.
Best part of the video.
Come on. Wrong argument. Sports fans, get on the bandwagon. It's coming anyway, okay? Esports is coming. Twitch it's blowing up. There's Mixer, there's YouTube, there's all kinds of other game channels. Everyone's watching everyone do other stuff because it's entertaining, it's fun, and it's engaging. At least when you watch Twitch, if I want to, I can interact with what's going on in the chat room or on the screen with the actual entertainer. If you want to get LeBron James' attention,
What do you kickball?
it ain't happening. You're not on his radar, okay? He doesn't care. There's no avenue for you to interact with that. And at the end of the day, we're doing the same thing. It's just one's, socially acceptable when video games aren't. Maybe because these assholes are saying they're causing violent people. It's wrong, but that's what's going on. That's why you guys are both the beef. So, commentators, guests, Jimmy, James, I want to know, what do you guys think? Which is the beefier? There is a right answer. We're going to get to it right after this, but first I want to hear what you guys have to say. So let me hear it. Take it away, Jimmy. Take it away, James. Let's go. Let's hear it.
All right.
I like how he said there is a right answer.
It's a right answer. Oh,
Like,
shit.
oh, no, we better not get this wrong.
The pressure's on. We better, we can't disappoint him. So, so on the first one, I remember when all that happened, and it's funny because the world works in cycles, and it's always, no one ever wants to take responsibility for any of that shit, right? Like, parents don't want to say, oh, we raised an asshole. Like, and so it's so much easier for them to just point at and say, that's the problem over there. It wasn't me. I'm a good parent, right? And it's been generation to generation. It's always been something. Whether it's TV, whether it's rock and roll, whether it's video games. I mean, when Columbine happened, right? It was Marilyn Manson. There was all of this outrage about how, oh, the guys who did Columbine, they listened to Marilyn Manson, and this music incites violence. And, you know, there's that infamous interview he did on Bill O'Reilly's show where he's like, yeah, like, who's talking to, and Marilyn Manson made him look like an idiot because he was like, who's talking about the parents? Who's talking about, like, you know, all these other issues that these kids are dealing with? Like, he made so many poignant, like, Marilyn Manson was so well spoken. I think he, like, Bill O'Reilly thought he was just gonna, like, pigeonhole him or, like, put him in a corner or whatever. And Marilyn Manson, like, had a perfectly legitimate argument for every point that he made and made him look like an idiot, because that's the truth. Like Meshyf said, it comes down to, you know, parenting. It comes down to mental health, education. You know, like, a lot of these kids are just fucking not being raised by their parents. And they're being bullied, and they're being grinded through a system where, you know, all that matters is test scores and popularity and extracurricular activities. And if you're not good at those, then you're not good at life. And, like, yeah, that's gonna push some people over the edge if we don't solve those problems. So I 100% agree. I might lean towards that one being the bigger beef, only because it has higher social ramifications. It has more consequences because of people believing that way about video games causing violence. James, what do you think?
It's a very difficult subject because it's like you said, people push the blame on games because it's easy. It's a third party that can't really defend itself, because Grand Theft Auto can't defend itself. But, like, just looking at my family, it's funny thinking about it, because it's like, I'm the oldest brother, so I'm, like, different from my younger brothers, and then looking at my 3 younger ones, they're all different in the ways they interact with video games. And you can kind of gauge, like, where violence comes from, because the oldest one of the 3, he loves Rainbow Six Siege, and when he dies, he yells at the screen like he's angry, like the game was bullshit. And then the other 2, they're twins, and even though they're twins, their interests are so, like, polarized. The older one, he loves Overwatch. That's, like, his main FPS. That's the one he gets. And then the other one loves Fortnite. He doesn't mess around with Rainbow Six, and he doesn't mess around with Overwatch because he's just different that way. But it's like, out of the 3 of them, the one that plays Rainbow is more violent. But is it because of the game? Because even without the game, he's still violent. Because I live with him. I see this all the time. But it's like, an outsider's perspective, like, why is this one more violent? He plays the more realistic, violent video game. It's obviously that one.
Right. Right. It's the whole correlation versus causation, right? The opposite could actually be true. Maybe he's drawn to that game because he has more violent tendencies, right?
Yeah, I remember seeing it was video games don't make people violent. Human fascination with violence makes violent video games.
Right. They make the games because they sell, right? It's not because they're trying to promote violence. It's because people are fascinated. Like, before video games were ever a thing, how many World War II movies were made since World War II? There's hundreds of them, right? Like, it's the human fascination with that shit. And it just like anything else. I mean, there's a human fascination with extremes in general, whether it's violence, whether it's sexuality, whether it's morality, whether it's religion, whether it's, you know, awkward drama situations. Like, the extremes of the human experience are compelling, period. And so, yeah, that's gonna sell. But is that fueling it? Is that making it more? I'm actually interested in the studies that have come out that have shown some evidence that the opposite is true. That because we have these avenues, these ways of experiencing or acting out or venting these tendencies, people are actually less likely, like, you know, because I can log on to CSGO and shoot 100 people or terrorists or whatever, and you know, when I get home from work and I'm mad or whatever, I can let out some of that aggression on a video game, which doesn't hurt anyone unless I get on my microphone and, you know, yell racial slurs. But
I
like,
got the bully hunters in here.
but like, I would almost lean towards, like, I've actually read a few like really interesting articles about how all of these multimedia tools that we have are actually making people less violent. But you have to be careful with that too, because you don't want a subdued society. It's a problem in the opposite, where like everyone's getting those dopamine fixes from Facebook and from video games, and so no one's actually out fighting for a cause, right? Like,
Yep.
that's also true. Like, it's kind of a weird double-edged sword dichotomy. Like, it's a really weird situation that we're in. Like, with all that Facebook stuff going on with Cambridge Analytica and stuff, like, they know that stuff works on a subconscious dopamine level. And so there's a lot of people who, you know, in the 70s might have been marching on Washington. Well, now they're playing Candy Crush. Like, they just sit in their bubble and get their dopamine fix, and they don't ever, like, they never create anything. They never fight for anything. They just, you know, they're the opposite of violent. They're subdued, which is also dangerous. So I don't know. It's kind of I'm more concerned about that. I'm more concerned about the counter argument, right? I don't know. That's my opinion. And as far as the whole sport, non-gamers, like sports fans versus gamers thing, I agree with that, but I think that's just a matter of social conditioning and the generation gap in general. Mm-hmm. You know, like rock and roll is played on the oldies stations now, but like you go back to the 50s and 60s and 70s, rock and roll was revolutionary. You know, there were parents who were kicking kids out of their house because they were listening to rock and roll music. I mean, and now it's like, you know, 70-year-olds listen to their oldies, and that just comes with time, I think. I don't think it's as big of an issue personally. I think as the next generation who was raised in it, because when video games came out, it's kind of funny. It kind of went like this, right? Because when video games first came out, it wasn't little kids that were playing them. You had, like, I mean, it was maybe teenagers, but there was a lot of older people. Like when Pong came out, my dad was telling me, like in the 70s, like those games were not, they were for, I mean, obviously they kind of ended up going more towards like kids. Like it naturally was kind of looked at as a game, but like arcades weren't filled with like 10-year-olds initially. Like he's like, yeah, I remember, like I was 19, and you know, I was hitting up the arcades. Even when he was hitting up the clubs, he was also hitting up the arcades. Like it wasn't just for kids. But then, like, obviously once parents learned that they could just, you know, buy a Nintendo as a babysitter, and then like the whole market kind of moved that way, and a lot of the marketing and, like, you know, obviously they appealed to kids and stuff. So socially for a long time it was childish. Like for most of my youth it was something kids do, and like once you hit a certain age you don't play video games anymore. And I think that a lot of that was propagated by religion. I was raised Mormon, and I still played games as an adult, but I would never admit that, like, in church. If I was ever in a social environment where I would be like, oh yeah, you know, oh, what do you do for fun? Oh, I play drums, and you know, I play Counter-Strike. Well, what's that? Oh, it's a video game. I play online. Oh, you play video games? Like still? Like that? Like still? Like that was a question. Like, oh, you're like, oh, so you're not an adult?
Like still, are you a grown man or a child, sir?
Yeah, in the Mormon culture, I was very, very much like shunned for my hobbies for a long time. So, but I think that's just a matter of time.
Mm-hmm.
I
think especially like just looking at my siblings that don't even watch like TV a lot, they're always like watching like YouTube videos and live streams. It's definitely gonna come like if it's not this generation, it's gonna be the next one. I think right now for a lot of people, it's mostly because they see stuff that's physical, and they can associate better with it, like what you have to go through to do it, because they see like high school teenager grows up and now they're like these big beefy like football players, but then like a lot of esports guys, they look like your average Joe. It's like, how is he any different from me? So obviously I could play a video game, how's that any different?
Right.
But then it's the same extreme. Like you can go out and play football with your friends, doesn't mean you can compete NFL. It's the same way. You can go and play a game on your Xbox, doesn't mean you could compete with the guys that do it 16 hours a day. Right.
Hello, Mrs. Dragonburger makes a good point. Everyone has a kid in them. Yeah, and I think that's a really good point to make, is that what the fuck does being an adult mean? Right? Like, oh, I have to stop liking the things I used to like? Like, you know? Like, oh, I'm an adult now, so I can't play Zelda anymore and animes for kids, and like, I think that'll die. I mean, I hate to say it, but that'll die with the baby boomers.
Yeah, definitely.
As morbid or whatever as you want. I mean, it's just a very different mindset. We were raised. I mean, I remember when I got high-speed internet. You pay bills. That's the adult part. I guess that. Yeah, I get. That's the only rite of passage that really exists in Western society. Is like, oh, you have to pay rent now. Like. But even that, I mean, you know, I guess you could make that argument, but there's a lot of 30-year-olds still living in their parents' house.
It's like once I graduate, it's like phone bill, rent, electricity, internet, all these expenses pop up that are no longer handled by my parents.
Well, that's a whole nother argument, like the whole rite of passage thing. Like and you know, there's a whole series I listened to that talks about how that's part of the reason that Western society is so fucked up, is because we have no rite of passage. There's no clear-cut line when it says, hey, you're an adult now, you got to start doing this stuff.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, we're gonna say when you start drinking, you're an adult. It's like, what about the 12-year-olds that were doing that? Okay, it's what you're having sex. What about the 12-year-olds that were doing that?
Right, it's exactly.
Like, people will always do anything, no matter like what the parents say.
Well, and I think that's one advantage that some religious organizations have, because, you know, like you know, in the Jewish faith, there's certain like specific events, you know, whether it's the bar mitzvah or whatever, you know, in certain cultural, like, you know, you're Hispanic, you've got the quinceañera, you've got like, you know, there are specific landmarks that say, okay, now you've moved on to the next stage of life, of maturity, of all that stuff. I had the advantage in the Mormon church. For me, it was my mission. In the Mormon church for men, it's basically you're not a man until you go on a mission for 2 years and come back. And then you come back and everyone, oh, he was gone for 2, now he's back? He had all these experiences? Because I went to Brazil, so it's like, oh shit, like he lived on it. He went and did a mission in Brazil for 2 years. He's a man now. And like, women look at you different and everything. Like, there's a huge rite of passage in the Mormon church. So like, I think because of the absence of that, though, for general like Western culture, unless you're a part of one of those specific groups, it's very blurry. So like, who's to say when you should or should not stop doing something or start doing something? And is that good or is that bad? I don't know. Like, I'm just putting it out there. Like, there's no rite of passage. So a lot of people now are just like, fuck you. I love anime. I like hentai. I like playing video games. I like watching people play video games. This is my life. Who are you to say what I do and don't do? So, I mean, whether that's good or bad, I don't know. But
what's the baseball league? What is that called? What's the acronym?
The what? Oh.
What's the acronym for the
MLB?
Baseball? MLB, that's it.
Major League Baseball?
That's it. Yeah, here we go. I'm about to link this article because I just remembered this about like on the topic of these like OG, like what's like we watch sports versus esports. It was this whole issue that that Fortnite addiction is an issue for Major League Baseball because the baseball players are playing too much Fortnite.
Oh yeah, I saw a clip where some baseball players were playing Fortnite on a like a Megatron, like on the.
Yeah.
I saw that. Oh, you linked it. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to. I mean, we can probably talk about this for hours, but for me personally, if I were to say which one's the bigger issue, I think as far as social ramifications and actual like real world consequences, I would say that the whole non-gamers looking at video games and seeing them as violent and seeing them as a negative influence, that probably has more real world consequences than sports fans who don't fucking get it. I mean, because you're already seeing that transition. I was gonna bring up Rick Fox. Like,
oh yeah, owns League of Legends team.
Rick Fox owns a League of Legends team. He was smart, and he's a pro basketball player, but he sees it. He sees the future. Like those who are open-minded enough to say, "Oh shit," like that was a multi-million-dollar tournament at the Staples Center. There's like he sees that shit's changing. So he built a fucking League of Legends team, right?
And then he tries to understand. He plays the game itself with his son because he saw his son was playing it.
Well, then you've got celebrities like The Rock. You know, he's come out and talked about. No, it wasn't The Rock. Terry Crews. Oh, I just made the most terrible fucking mistake.
Is it because they're both big buff men?
And black.
Color.
That's why. That was a terrible. What is the other one? Samuel L. Jackson always gets mad because people think he's.
I know who you're talking about. I don't remember his name.
Anyway,
but I also always call him Samuel L. Jackson.
But anyway, Terry Crews. There's a really cool YouTube video where he talks about how like his son was like super into video games and super into computers and all this stuff. And at first he was like, "Nah, man, let's go outside, let's go, blah blah blah." And then one day he kind of had a come to Jesus moment or whatever you want to call it,
where
where he was like, "This is what I do. This is my passion." And he's like, "You know what? Like, I need to respect that, and I need to see what this is all about." And so he had his son teach him all about technology. Like they built a computer together. They started playing video games together. Like that's happening. And I'm not. So for me, that the whole point of like sports people or like, you know, whatever, not embrace, like I think that's just a matter of time. Linking violence to video games is a much larger issue in my personal opinion.
And then I think another thing, there's more games coming out that appeal to more people. Because it's like my girlfriend and her female friends who don't traditionally play video games, they'll still sit down and play Smash with us because they find it fun. It's a game that appeals to them, and there's a lot more like that, like Jackbox games. Those are games that appeal to those people that don't traditionally like video games because it's put in a medium that they understand and is more easy to play. And the social aspect is great.
Gator Pete, the Old Spice custom build. No, I agree with you. The last point I was gonna make is that like part of the problem too is that people don't quantify all games equally. My mom, growing up, she would give me shit for playing too many video games. My dad saw the value in me learning technology and like because I played a lot of Counter-Strike. I was in a clan. We played competitively. Because of that, I learned how to make web pages. I built my own computer. I started driving me and my friends to tournaments, so I became more independent. Like there was a number of things that I learned, how to work as a team. My dad saw the value in all that. I got a job at a computer store when I was 15, mostly because I was into video games. My mom would always be like, "Oh, he's playing too many of those games. You should go outside." I don't know anyone who plays now. I don't know anyone who plays more like cell phone games than my mom. Like Candy Crush, whatever. But they don't see those as the same. They don't put those. It's funny because like people who like play games on their phone or like on Facebook or whatever, for whatever reason, they don't put those games in the same category as console games or PC games. Like phone games are just something to kill time. They're not really games. They're just kind of like time sinks. And I have to point out to her, like, dude, how many hours of these cell phone games do you play? Like you're giving me shit for playing games for 5 hours, and like you're on level 2037 on Candy Crush. Like that's not really fair, right? Like.
Mm-hmm. But now I think it's time for the reveal.
The reveal. It is time. I already have it queued up. I'm going to switch over to my Meshyf view. All right. We'll do 1, 2, 3, go. So hit play on go. Okay. 1, 2, 3, go.
And we are back with Sheep's Beef down here at NTRHNBR Network, Sheep Beef Stadium Complex. I'm Meshyf, and this is The Beef. So, we had a chance to talk. We're all talking. I appreciate everyone's commentary and everyone's input. Okay? But there is a right answer and there's a wrong answer.
Hold on. Pause it.
Okay, paused.
I'm at 22 seconds.
Yep, 22.
Everyone right now, before he reveals, type 1 in chat if you believe that non-gamers who think games cause violence is the bigger issue. So type 1 in chat for that. Type 2 in chat if you think sports fans that don't get Twitch is a bigger issue. Vote now. 0. Suck a butt. Come on, guys. Give me real numbers. 1 or 2. 2 is the bigger issue for Meshyf, in my opinion. Oh, so your number is the prediction for Meshyf, not for which one you personally think. You think Sheaf will say 2? That's funny. See, I was thinking more on a grand scale. I personally would say 1, the non-gamer violence connection.
I would say 1 because of the thumbnail I saw earlier.
Yeah.
But it could be the fake out.
True. All right. We got a lot of people saying 1, but they think Meshyf will say 2. He hates sports, so it's an educated guess. Lady Navio going with the scientific approach. He probably catches a lot of shit for watching Twitch. Yeah, probably. So let's see what he says.
And this week, the beef, the biggest beef, non-gamers.
Yeah!
These guys are threatening everything that we like to do.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't tell you when to hit play.
They don't get it.
Oh, it's fine. I think I hit it at the same time.
Educated opinions on it.
Because he said yeah as soon as he announced the
option
one.
Pre-violent or something like that. Like it's a problem. Okay, we need to have an honest discussion about what's going on in this country.
Uh-oh. Hold on, my video's not playing on the stream.
Oh no.
Pause it. I'm gonna go back. Why isn't that playing?
I mean, as long as they got the audio. That's fine.
I want the video. Why did it not refresh? We have an issue. It's like not refreshing at all. Hold on. All right. Let's go back to where we were because we were talking. Let's go back to 22 seconds.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3, go.
And this week, the beef, the biggest beef, non-gamers. Okay. These guys are threatening everything that we like to do as a hobby, as entertainment. They don't get it. They have uneducated opinions on it, and it's dangerous because they're making it look like everyone's a criminal or pre-violent or something like that. Like it's a problem. Okay. We need to have an honest discussion about what's going on in this country, what's creating all these issues, and the honest discussion does not include people playing video games. Because let's be honest, if it did, we'd all be doctors or lawyers or, go-kart drivers because because I play Phoenix Wright Attorney at Law, because I like to play Mario Brothers or whatever. Like it's dumb, right? It doesn't happen that way. They're not simulators. There are simulators. I play them, I stream them, and even those are shitty simulators. Okay, American Truck Simulator is one of the funnest games that I have. Farm Simulator is fun. That dumb police simulator game that I was streaming the other day. They're simulators, but they're games.
Yeah, I play Roguelikes. I've died 2,000 times.
What's going on.
Oh, in real life?
And if you told Jimi Hendrix that you learned the guitar because you were pushing buttons on the Guitar Hero, he'd laugh at you, and you'd be wrong. Because what you did is you got an interest, and then you went and picked up a real guitar and learned how to play. And that's what is the biggest beef this week. So, congratulations to everyone that was right. I appreciate all the input. To all the losers, you get it cracky. Okay. Have a good one. I hope you enjoyed Chiefs Beef. We will see you next Wednesday.
Yes, I love it. I'm going to make him do that every week now. He can't escape it. He has made his bed, and now he must sleep in it. I want one of those always.
I'm Jesus because I've respawned multiple times. Nice
Yeah,
one, Ninja.
I've died a lot. That was awesome. I think he did a good job. For the first like pre-recorded Chiefs Beef, I think that was really well done, and that was a lot of fun. He gave us 2 things to even like contemplate and vote on.
Mm-hmm.
So, was there any other gaming stuff that I think that we covered most of the gaming topics we wanted to talk about this week. I've got a number of music topics I want to talk about. So, if you have any gaming stuff, we should get that out of the way now.
Not really. Haven't played a lot of new stuff this week.
So, now that there's more people here, I will reiterate, everyone needs to go play Wizard of Legend. It's only $15 and it's badass. You should all play it. Meshyf's new career is beefing. Yeah. I'm having a lot of fun with this, by the way. Are my overlays even on? I don't think they are. Has anyone tried to?
I don't think they were, because I looked over at the Discord and you got hosted for 15 viewers. Like,
did anything pop up? I wonder what's up with my. Let's do a quick test.
Yeah, it was at 7:40 when KittyCast hosted for 15 viewers.
I think it was an auto host though.
Yeah, but for 15 though.
I don't have a notification for auto hosts.
Then yeah, it might have been
Oh no, they're working. I just did a test Giphy. All right, cool, we're good. Why would you sleep in a bed you've made? Don't you make your bed in the morning when you're starting your day? Before I go, Jimmy, fart if you can see me in chat. I wish dude, if I could fart on command, I would not be doing podcasts right now. I'd be on like Howard Stern or some shit. Nice, there you go. So notifications I think are working. I think what I might do for the podcast, I might turn like audio off for the notifications, but we'll see. Oh, so you can see me. Yeah, so let me set the expectation now. Generally during podcasts, especially when we're covering specific topics, it's going to be very conversational between James and I. If you've ever watched a podcast, unfortunately, there generally is not a lot of audience participation. I intentionally want it to be a discussion with me and James. Every once in a while, we might pull a comment out. We might, see something you said, and if it's a good point, we'll talk about it. But the format for podcasts is different. Go watch like the H3H3 podcasts or like Northern Lion or whatever. There's not a ton of chat interaction. I want your feedback and I'll ask for it. And when I'll interact with you when it's pertinent, but mostly it's kind of more of a situation where we are, because I want this to actually be a podcast. I plan on eventually like syndicate, like I want to make an actual podcast, like an audio podcast. So if we spend half of the time responding to comments, those who might be actually downloading and listening to it as a podcast will be completely clueless because they don't see your comments. So it's a little bit of a different format. I don't want to be an asshole. I don't want to call anyone out. But I want to set that expectation now in the second episode of this podcast that it is a discussion format. And any interaction that we have with chat will probably be a little bit different than if I was just streaming on Twitch. So hopefully that doesn't disappoint anyone. We'll still try our best to interact with you guys. But the general format is me and my co-host James are going to have a number of topics we're going to discuss. We may have a Chief's Beef section. We may have a guest that we interview, but it's a podcast. We're doing it live on Twitch, but still it is a podcast. So I'll say that now. Hopefully maybe we'll clip this or highlight it. So moving forward, that expectation is there. It's a podcast. So, cool. Moving on. If we've discussed all of the gaming topics, I have some music topics that I'm super excited about. So I have a couple trailers. I have a couple announcements that I'm really excited about that I want to cover before the general podcast is over. And then we may play a game for a bit and keep the discussion going. There's a special event going on in Minion Masters that we may play a couple games of Minion Masters, try and get some keys for you guys. But number one, let's switch over to our media view. There is a movie coming out called Bohemian Rhapsody. Can you guess what it's about?
Is it about?
It's about one of my
make a joke, but I couldn't name a country in time.
It's about Queen.
Of England.
The band Queen, who is, their most famous song is Bohemian Rhapsody. For those who, I mean, if you don't know that, I feel sorry for you.
Go listen to the song.
It's a great song. So, a little history. This movie has been in the works for a long time. They had a script, they had a director, and they had approached Sacha Baron Cohen to play the main role of Freddie Mercury. But he read the script and he said, so the original script, I don't know if this new script is the same. The original script, Freddie Mercury dies halfway through the movie. Because they wanted the whole second half of the movie to be basically about like the band's struggles and continuing as Queen without Freddie Mercury. Like they wanted it to be a full history of Queen, right? Sacha Baron Cohen objected to that, and he said, "Look, Queen died when Freddie Mercury died, and this movie needs to be about Freddie Mercury and his life and his struggles as a closeted gay man, his extravagancies and his persona and his parties and everything that, because Freddie Mercury, there's
Jimmy, I'm gonna have to stop you right there.
There's two different opinions.
He wasn't a gay man. His sexuality was yes.
His sexuality, well, yeah, but you know what I mean. Like he was sexually ambiguous, in general, but. By the standards of that time, he would have been labeled as a gay man.
Yeah.
He contracted, sexually transmitted diseases as a result of his lifestyle that people would claim that anyway, long story short, Sacha Baron Cohen felt that the focus should have been on him because there's two mindsets. There, like a lot of people say that Queen died when he died. Like there's no Queen without Freddie Mercury. Which I might tend to lean towards that. I might tend to agree with that. So he had disagreements. He eventually decided not to take the project, and eventually the director even was fired or replaced or whatever. So this is probably a very different movie from what was originally intended. And in place of Sacha Baron Cohen is Malik. What's his last name? I always murder his name.
Not Malik.
It's,
we got good old Mr. Robot, Rami Malek.
Rami Malek. I spoonerized his name. I wanted to say Malik Ramel. Yes, which I love. He's a great actor, but he's a little bit typecast as kind of like an awkward. I don't know. he's a good actor. I don't know as singing wise where he's at, but I was actually really excited when I heard about Sacha Baron Cohen playing him, because Sacha Baron Cohen can sing and he can act. He's been in a number of musicals. Yeah, he's mostly a comedic guy, and that's a discussion I had with Frango. But he's a great actor, great singer. I really hope that Ramal Malik, is that how you say it?
Yeah, Rami Malek. Sorry,
Rami Malek. I really hope that he can fit the persona. I mean, because Freddie Mercury had such a larger-than-life persona.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, let's watch the trailer and you guys decide. I'm really excited about it. I'm a huge fan of Queen. I own like 4 of their. I'm the one thing that I'm a super hipster about. I own a lot of vinyl. We have a small vinyl collection. And I own various. By the way, for those who don't know, one of their most famous inserts for one of their vinyls, I can't even show you on stream. They have that famous song Bicycles, and they always talk about fat bottom girls. One of the foldouts for one of their vinyls is literally like 2,000 women naked on bicycles. Like completely naked. And it's one of my prized possessions because I have one of the original prints with the original insert. It's not a reprint from like 70 whatever, 60 whatever when it came out. And Lady Navio agrees that we should frame it and put it on our wall.
It's art.
It's one of the greatest. Yeah, it's awesome. I wish I could show it to you guys, but I would get banned on Twitch. Anyway, let's watch the Bohemian Rhapsody trailer. I'm super excited about it.
Hi, it's copyright content.
I don't know. I feel like that whole larger-than-life rock persona, I don't know if it could ever exist today. And it's such like a compelling, like, I don't know, like Freddie Mercury, when you watch some of those clips from some of the live performances that he did in front of a sea of people, and it's just like so incredible, like, I don't know. I know there's music festivals and there's like, you know, EDM and all this shit, but like one person just commanding like hundreds of thousands of people and just like having the power to just I don't know, like I don't know if there will ever be another Freddie Mercury or Michael Jackson or whatever. Like
It was a different time.
Yeah, like that, like now with the internet and the way everything is now, I don't know if that could ever happen again. So that stuff is really compelling to me. So I'm really excited about this movie. I think hopefully they can capture that magic. Another one that I'm very excited about is let's see if I can get this right the first time. Where is it? Guess who just announced a new album?
Could it possibly be the Tenacious D?
It is. I'm trying to find the original video. It's like a really shitty, like animated video that they made. Ninja commands an audience of 100 to 200K daily. One guy, not even a group like. Yeah, but that's virtually. Not to knock virtual like audiences, but like I don't know. It's just so there's something so visceral and raw about just. There's a lot of like really good high def quality live performances of Queen on YouTube. I recommend watching some of them because there's nothing like it.
And it's the difference of anyone can sign into their computer and watch him. It's another thing to spend the money required to travel, the ticket, hotel if you don't live there, and then go there and be there in person.
Yeah, exactly. What he said. Hold on, I'm trying to find this fucking Tenacious D clip. I could have sworn I posted it. I had a bunch of links saved. Now I can't find it. Anyway, Tenacious D. they hinted a new song, and then they announced. So here's the video of their the first time they ever previewed a new song at a live show, and it's only the beginning of the song. But they had a video that they just came out with. I gotta find it. Their last album came out, it's been 4 years since they've released new music. Kevin Hart commands huge audiences live. I'm not saying that people don't exist that command huge audiences, but I challenge you to go watch. You can just look it up. Look up Queen High Def Live.
Okay, Jimmy, I think this is the video you were talking about.
Is it the animated one? Did you link it?
Yeah, Discord came out yesterday.
Oh, that's the one. Yeah, we'll watch that real quick. Fuck. Oh, I always copy the colon on accident. There we go.
Fuck. We gotta pay the rent.
Well, I guess we have to write another album.
Ugh, dude, that's gonna take us 5 more years. We're fucked. We are so fucked. Dude, we are so fucked.
Or are we?
What you got, Cage? What you got?
Apocalypto, this is our time to shine. Tenacious D has got to shine.
Yeah, that's the
Tell
one.
me why.
Ain't nothing but a mistake.
And tell me why.
You know, in the studio, a lot of people don't know this, but David Grohl did most of their drums
Oh, did he?
on their album. Yeah, he's a huge fan of Tenacious D, and he's a really good friend with them. He's only performed live with them a few times. They have another drummer that they use for their live performances, but David Grohl has worked with them a lot. He plays Satan in the Pick of Destiny.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, in that big old guitar rock off battle at the end, that's David Grohl dressed up as Satan. So that's saying something.
See, because I haven't heard all their music because kind of before my time, but I remember my aunt, she would tell me about them because she was like, "Have you heard the song Kickapoo?" I was like, "What?" She was like, "Yeah, it's by Tenacious D," and I was like, "Huh?" She's like, "You know Jack Black?" I was like, "I do."
Well, and a lot of people I've seen a lot of interview footage with other bands where they give props and mad respect to Tenacious D, because even though they're kind of a comedy whatever, they're actually extremely talented musicians, and they have a deep respect for rock and roll music.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of cool. So I don't know. I feel like I have to play this. Look at this. You see that audience? I want to get a shot of. You can't even fathom the sea of people. I don't want to sit here and watch this whole clip, but God, look at that. The entire audience is perfectly in sync with everything that he's doing. He has completely hypnotized and complete control of that audience. I don't know. I'm kind of bummed that I'll never get to see a band like Queen live. I don't think, like you said, it's a different time. I don't think that exists anymore.
Yeah, there could definitely be another band that does what they say and has the same pull, but it's just the environment and what's it called? Not governments. The social space that exists now is just so different from what the 80s and the 90s and all that time was.
Like, just look at that, dude. That's all human bodies, all singing along and perfectly in sync with one dude on a stage.
Yeah, do it! I like it. Sing it again. We will rock you.
Just, it's crazy, dude. I don't know. I love rock and roll, so I could sit here and fantasize about that shit all day. That being said, a couple other things that I want to mention before we I don't know. We might move on to mini masters. We might end the show. I don't know at this point, but there's a band called The Struts. I'm actually a moderator for the Struts subreddit. I'm a moderator for a bunch of small subreddits, even though I don't do shit. I'm a moderator for the Mini Master subreddit. I did all their CSS, and then I never touched it again after that. The Struts. I'm a moderator for that subreddit because I think the Struts, if there was ever a band that could recapture what Queen captured, as far as like live energy and performance and just like raw whatever. Because I've seen their live stuff, I've seen their acoustic stuff, I've seen a lot of their the Struts are pretty damn close. Almost too close. I feel like they're trying to be Queen at times. Like even the lead singer, kind of like his fashion style and everything, he looks a lot like Freddie Mercury did in his more flamboyant days. There's also Greta Von. Has anyone ever heard of Greta Von Fleet? I think that what is? Am I saying that right?
Possibly. See, I'm more of a flavor of the month, whatever's like new and everyone else is listening to type of guy.
Nah, I can't. I'm so deeply rooted in rock and roll. Just I blame my dad. But there's a band called Greta Von Fleet. If anyone is a fan of Led Zeppelin and you've always said to yourself, man, I wish there was like a modern day version of Led Zeppelin. Greta Von Fleet is literally like if Led Zeppelin died and was reincarnated. They are, again, I almost accuse them of being too much like Led Zeppelin. It almost feels like they're doing it on purpose. So those are two bands that I would definitely recommend checking out if you're into like just some old school like 70s rock, like 60s and 70s rock and roll. And then, of course, one more that I have to mention that I'm really... Oh, by the way, the new Arctic Monkeys album. So far, I'm disappointed.
Oh, no.
And Lady Navio is probably the largest Arctic Monkeys fan in the world. She's also disappointed.
Oh, that can't be good.
Yeah.
All the Reddit posts I saw were so hyped.
There's if you read down in the comments, there's some mixed reviews. But that being said, every album they come out with is very different, and all their fans complain at first that they're different, and then they all fall in love with them over again. So we'll see. I'm gonna give it like 6 months, and we'll see if people are still complaining about the Arctic Monkeys album. I have a feeling everyone's just gonna be like, "Oh, just kidding. I listened to it 5 more times, and it's amazing. It's a masterpiece." So, which I think is good. Like a band should reinvent themselves. I think it's important. That being said, last thing I'm going to mention, my favorite band of all times, if anyone's been around my stream since the beginning, there's one band that I think rocks harder than anyone on the planet, and they have announced that they're coming out with... Lady Navio comes back and says, nope, still sucks. She listened to it multiple times. She's listened to it like 5 times, so...
She is dead set in that opinion.
In my opinion, the greatest rock band in modern times that not enough people know about, and everyone needs to go listen to their shit on Spotify, buy their albums, download them, support them, is a band called Parlor Mob. Because they're not trying to be like anyone. They just fucking rock. And they have announced recently that they're coming out with a new album. They're going to be touring. They're a rock and roll band from Jersey. And we saw them live once. Lady Navio and I took a trip to San Diego and stayed in San Diego for like 2 or 3 days just so we could see Parlor Mob live. And it was probably one of the best live shows I've ever been to. It was just face melting, just pure energy, like true rock and roll. Just them doing it because they want to fucking do it, you know? So that's my plug. Check out Parlor Mob, The Parlor Mob. I'll pull it up here on the media view. I'll play a couple seconds of one of their more popular songs, Into the Sun.
Holy shit, it's a copyright.
Yeah.
God, like their song, like, okay, I gotta play one more before we end the music segment. We gotta. This song just is.
Fair use is for babies.
I don't know. Like, they just fucking rock. Just, I don't know. I feel like there's no like, it's not like some poppy hooks. It's just like, just straight rock, like rock and roll. Not nothing fancy or tricky about it. It's well recorded, well rehearsed. Makes me want to sing along and dance and move, and makes me want to pull out a drum set and play drums, which I haven't done in years. I don't know.
You have not in that apartment.
So anyway, the Parlor Mob, they look out for them. Their next album is probably going to be coming out soon, and they'll be touring. I really hope that they get more recognition and respect.
So you know what I wish? For Daft Punk to actually put out some new music.
Yeah.
They keep collabing with people, but it's like.
But that's their MO though. Like there's like giant gaps between all of their music.
Yeah, and it's always so good. So it's like, I like the stuff that they did in Random Access Memories. That was great. I loved
Random
all
Access
those.
Memories is awesome.
I like what they're doing with The Weeknd, but it's like I want a full length album. Maybe similar to Ram, collapse more, or maybe just them. But I need something.
Yeah. That's kind of the fate of a lot of musical groups, especially the super talented ones. Is eventually, if they're too good, they just start going on to produce shit and they stop making shit. And it's unfortunate because I 100% agree. I love Daft Punk. So along that same vein, why the fuck won't they play more than 2 spots in the United States when they tour? Like, I'm not about to spend $400 to fly to Texas to watch them play. Like, it's when they tour, like their US dates are so few, and everybody here, like, they might come here every 5 years, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna play Texas and New York." It's like, really, dude? Like, half of the United States lives in California, and you're not gonna like put at least one date in like somewhere. Like, that's one band that I would love to see live before I die. Just all the stuff like from their Alive tour that I've seen, like on YouTube and stuff. Like, that's got to be an insane experience to see them live. So I'm 100% on board with you as far as
like I remember I was listening to their music. I forgot when, but then I remembered later on the Tron Legacy movie came out, and I didn't know who had done the soundtrack. So as I'm watching the movie, I'm like, wow, this music is so good. Like, who made this? And then background cameo, who is it DJing?
Daft Punk
in full chrome, and I'm like, that's why it was so good. It fit the movie so well.
In fact, isn't that their latest original stuff, or did Random Access Memories come out after that?
Yeah, Ram came after.
But have you listened? have you listened to the Tron remixed or Tron? There's a whole entire album that's all the Tron songs it's like all remixed and covers.
Not recently, but I have heard some of it.
I forget what it's called. It's really good. I like when bands do that. Tool did that with one of their albums. They which one was it? They had a full album that they came out with, and then they released the master tracks of the entire album, and they let their audience create a bunch of covers. I'm saying Tool, and it's 9 Inch Nails. I totally am completely 100% wrong. 9 Inch Nails. I'm gonna look up which album it was. It was not Ghosts. Year Zero. So they came out with an album in 2007 called Year Zero, and then they released all of the master tracks, so all the tracking and all of the everything that they had basically for that album, so the individual tracks, the master recordings, and everything to their audience online, and they basically let everyone use that to create new songs or just remix and remaster and whatnot. And then they came out with an album later that same year called Year Zero Remixed. And in my opinion, Year Zero Remixed is like one of my favorite 9 Inch Nails albums, because it's just like all these really crazy community made like homages to 9 Inch Nails. Especially The Great Destroyer. If you go look up 9 Inch Nails Year Zero Remixed, and it's spelled really bad. I should just copy it and share it. I'm gonna post it in chat because you'll never spell it right.
Probably wouldn't.
The Great Destroyer remix that on that album is
God.
Yeah. It's stupid. The Great Destroyer, I think it's the second song on that album, is just like incredible. And it was like a remix that, So what they did is they basically let people submit their remixes, and then they compiled them and got permission from everyone to release them as an album.
See, that's very interesting that they would do that.
Well, a few bands have done that. What's the one who did the Crawling in My Skin? Linkin Park.
Yeah, that's Linkin Park.
They did the same thing. They have
did they?
Yeah, it's called let me find it. What's it called? God, they have so many albums. Reanimation. So Reanimation is an album that Linkin Park put out that was basically a whole shit ton of remixes that other people did of their music. And some of them are really good. Came out in 2002. I can link that one as well. If you don't have Spotify, come on.
I have Spotify.
I know. I was more talking to the audience. Because it's so easy to look shit up. Yeah, it came out in 2002, and there's some great tracks on that one. So, there you go. There's some music recommendations. Go check out Parlor Mob. Go check out The Struts. Maybe some 9 Inch Nails Year Zero remixed. Go check out some the remix album of Daft Punk. The Tron remixed album is really good.
I need to actually listen to the Tron album again, because my girlfriend bought me the Ram CD when it came out, so I've had that all this time.
It's a great album. I mean, it was it was cool because they built their career early on sampling other people. And then their goal specifically on that album was to not sample, was to create the next generation of sounds that people will sample. Like that was their goal. So they worked with a lot of the greats from like the 60s and 70s and 80s that made a lot of those iconic sounds. And that was kind of like what they were going for, is like, oh, okay, we're gonna work with like if you listen, it's fun to did you listen to the interviews, that whole album they released of like all the commentary for that album?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, because
really...
after I listened to Giorgio, I was like, oh, who is this guy? Like, because they had all that exposition at the beginning.
Right.
He's like, I want to make a sound of the future, so I put the click on the 28 track.
Right.
And then it goes from there.
Yep. Exactly. And like that, I mean, that's what they were trying to do. They were basically like, okay, we built this career of sampling other people, so let's make our original album that people will use from this point forward as the next generation of samples. So they sat down with musicians in the studio and recorded original content. And that's why it's, I don't know, I commend them for that, because it was so different than everything they'd done before. But I'm waiting for
all the songs themselves are so different as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm waiting for them to release their remix of that album. Where's Random Access Memories remixed? Sample your own shit and give us more.
I could definitely use some of that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I was gonna say let's play some Minion Masters, but I gotta. What do you think? How you feeling?
Yeah, I could possibly do it, but my brother also looked like he was ready to go to sleep.
He's like, dude, are you sharing a room while you're at home with your folks?
Yeah, normally the bed I'm on is my brother's, but he's sleeping in my grandma's room instead, because her bed is like much nicer and she's not here right now. So he was like, oh cool, take the bed, I'll go sleep in there.
So for those who don't know, when James isn't halfway across the United States, he's at home with his family in California. He's a college student. So now that school's out, he's back at home with the fam bam. If you go watch the first episode, you can hear his brother playing. What are they playing? Fortnite in the background half the time.
Yeah, he was playing Fortnite.
Yeah. So
a bit of Destiny too.
So, yeah, maybe we'll just call it a night then. This has been a solid 3-hour podcast. Chief's Beef, I feel like, was a grand success, and I hope to continue that tradition. I'm going to...
That was good.
He set the bar too high. Now he's going to have to do it every week.
Now they're all going to have to be animated.
Maybe every other week. And I want a different animated background every time. No, I liked it. I thought it was good. I really liked the idea of having 2 different topical issues for us to like debate. That was cool. So thanks to anyone who's still out there lurking and watching. This has been a lot of fun. This is a learning experience for all of us. This is podcast number 2 of hopefully many more to come in the future. So I hope you guys have a good night, and thank you so much for your support. There were a couple new faces out there, a couple follows. Make sure you go check out James's YouTube channel. Maybe if he feels so inclined, he can post it in the chat. I'll leave that up to him. Sure. He also streams occasionally on Twitch. He's a super nice guy, got a super silky, sexy voice, and he's not too bad on the eyes. So go tell all your lady friends that James is out here doing podcasts with me. He's a great co-host. I enjoy talking to him. I enjoy all of your interactions. Again, sorry if we're not as active with chat. It is a podcast format, so hopefully we can maybe incorporate some of you in the future. Red Marsh was here earlier. He's a streamer that I recently started watching. I might reach out to him to have him as a special guest. I think it'd be fun to chat with him. He's a really interesting dude. So yeah, that's kind of my goal, is to have some guests in the future. I'm a Samurai, who is one of our founding members at DLC. She was actually recently featured in an article online about top female entertainers. It was a BuzzFeed article. I was trying to think of the name.
It was.
She was number 2 on the list for entertaining women to watch on Twitch. So I'm hoping to get her as a guest soon. She is one of the nicest, most sincere people. She plays a lot of Fortnite lately, but she also dabbles in other things. She's a pseudo variety streamer.
So wholesome.
Yeah, like seriously, like
If you're having a bad day, just tune in.
you watch her for like 20 minutes and you'll be puking rainbows.
Like, even when she's trying to be angry, she still sounds so sweet.
Yeah. No, she's great. Also, you know, there's various members of the DLC community that I'd like to have as guests on the show. Who is this? We're talking about I'm a Samurai. I don't know if it'll let me shout her out right now.
I think it would.
There you go. Definitely go follow her. And so again, she's one of the founding members. Her and Battle Athlete created the team that I'm on, DLC. She is an engineering student and a super nice person and very entertaining to watch. And she's always been super supportive of what I'm trying to do here. I want to get her as a guest. That's my goal. One of these days, we're going to keep her up late and we're going to have her as a guest on the Bucket podcast. Oh, so as far as names, I'm still open for names. Hit me up with DMs if you got some ideas for names for the podcast. I was thinking, because we generally do this at night, maybe we could do something like Late Night Bucket, or something kind of to get across the fact that it's a bunch of adults talking about dumb shit late at night.
Yep.
A reference to like late night HBO or late night Showtime.
That is one thing I dislike about being on the West Coast right now. I see the phone notification. I'm a Samurai went live 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I just woke up.
It's like, what?
Yeah. So anyway, thank you guys. We're gonna call it a night. Please make sure you give me a follow, give me whatever. The Discord, yes, please join the Discord. That's what I was gonna say. I was trying to think of. There's the link. Come hang out with us. If you have any topics or guests or anything that you'd be interested in discussing in future podcasts, I would love to hear from you. So drop in, say hi, and have a good night.
Yep. We'll see you next week.